My name is Mhairi Sutherland and I'm an artist, Irish Scots artist based in the northwest of Ireland. I live at the moment in Derry, Londonderry. And my work is mainly around the history of photography, drawing and installation. I use a lot of research practices in my work, and it moves between making connections between the landscape and the archive. My work involves a lot of literary sources. I look at the archive, I'm interested in narratives, I'm interested in making connections between narratives, militarism and the landscape, particularly to do with the maritime landscape, to do with the maritime imagination. And with this show I really wanted to really reveal the fact that my sources can be literary. I'm really interested in literary imagination. And I suppose that the kind of pivot, the start for this particular show is actually two narratives, two books. The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine, which was first published in 1903 and has never been out of print. And the logbook, which has been written by Mhairi Rice aboard the Asgard. The Asgard is the yacht that undertook the gun-running cruise that brought the guns that were later used in the Easter Rising of 1916. The Riddle of the Sands is credited as being the world's first original spy novel. And for a singular novel, it had a huge impact at the time. Winston Churchill instructed all of his cabinet to read it. It's a kind of boy's own adventure on one level about the coastal fortifications of the North Sea, which actually made the War Cabinet question their defences and made a change in their fortifications of the North Sea. Mhairi Rice had a very similar background to Erskine Childers, Anglo-Irish ascendancy class. But also, as was Childers, a very contradictory character. She was an Irish speaker and a Gaelic language teacher. She was involved with setting up cooperative societies in Limerick. But to a large extent, she has been kind of marginalised in the story of the Asgard. And I really wanted to look at that again. She wrote the logbook for the Asgard, which is the gun-running journey that brought the guns from the 1916 Rising. And her logbook forms the titles for the works from the Frisian Islands. I particularly wanted to kind of merge and fuse some of those areas together. So the titles for the photographs are as important as the photographs themselves. You can come in and look at them just as photographs. But for instance, if you're looking at something like the first photograph, where it makes reference to them working on the Asgard and clearing the lockers to make space for guns, it will give you a different reading, hopefully, of that photograph. The photographs that we have on show in Re-Imagining Treason, they were all taken, as was the films, the 4 short films. They were filmed in the Frisian Islands of March this year, so March 2022. Again, fortunate to have support from the Arts Council of Northern Ireland to go and do the research in the field, in the kind of landscape of the Frisian Islands. The Frisian Islands is where the Riddle of the Sands was set. And also that area of the North Sea is where the Asgard would have passed through, coming from Hamburg, carrying the guns, going towards Dublin. So it's this kind of area of sea that has, for me, a particular kind of maritime and militarised history and form. So it was a real privilege to get there. I don't have a yacht, but I did my best with my cameras and my sketch pads. So I was working from the shoreline of an island called Norderney, which is spoken about by Erskine Childers in The Riddle of the Sands, but it's one of the significant islands that they are kind of moving through on the way to catch what they then uncover as a German spy. It's probably important to say that Re-Imagining Treason, although it's examined kind of events and narratives and kind of histories of the past, that the point for doing that is to make connections to areas of contemporary relevance. As I was travelling to the Frisian Islands, the East Frisian Islands, that's the German Frisian Islands. So I was meeting, encountering Ukrainian refugees coming through train stations. It was something that was very evident as I was kind of travelling through. I had a conversation with a young student, really shocking, appalling. It was in the first few weeks of the war in Ukraine. But what the backdrop as I was travelling was news and information about the invasion of Ukraine. It was in the first weeks of the war, so it was very raw. I was in Germany. It was obviously on kind of every station all the time. So it's important to say that the kind of issues of cultural identity that Re-Imagining Treason is touching on certainly haven't been resolved within these islands. We've had Brexit, we're having the protocol, we've just had the census. When Erskine Childers was the secretary to the Anglo-Irish Treaty of 1921, look at the far-reaching ramifications of that act. So it is important to say that the work, I hope, makes issues from the archive alive and connected to issues that we're experiencing in the present.